That's right. So, another video today. Training saved my life and it'll save yours too. Now you might be thinking, Coach, that's a bit deep, but it's going to be relevant and this is going to be a good video. I put like a good amount of work into this, as I always do, because I give a toss about what I post. So this is not going to be about sort of the whole thing of, you know, looking good and 5 a.m. starts and ice baths and all that stuff that I do. It's not going to be about that. It's not something that's going to be, you know, preachy or trying to reel off stuff that's unachievable for people. This is just purely my experience, the way I've dealt with things, and ultimately whether you're rock bottom at the moment or you are maybe feeling a little bit like, you know, you're needing a little bit of a kick, then this is going to help you. So it's about training, being consistent, showing up, and with this, it is going to change your life. You know, the gym has the power to do that. And if you're lost, depressed, anxious, you know, training will give you the structure and it will help you get back into things. So if you're struggling, this is going to help you. And I genuinely do believe that. So structure creates stability. So what do I mean by that? If we set some standards, first of all, even just getting up 10 minutes earlier and getting a quick walk around the block, that is something that we can do immediately. That's going to help us feel a little bit better. And when I talk about training today, I'm not just going to be saying, you know, about going to the gym, lifting weights, you know, training as a whole. So, you know, your cardio, your steps, you know, your food, things that all go into the whole training fitness process. You know, something I immediately want to talk about, and something that I'll probably end up referring to a little bit as we move throughout this video, is going to be, you know, when I was in two call centres before I did all of this kind of stuff. Both the first at Empower, pretty good environment in terms of people. You know, money was okay, things like that. But in terms of like the stress and anxiety I used to get sometimes if we ended up doing, you know, customer service calls, trying to deal with bills, people maybe getting through, wanting to talk about debt, and you were trying to help them, but then you know, the general day-to-day being back-to-back on calls, maybe, you know, so some of you guys probably know this from call centres, you know, you might be taking 70, 80 calls a day, things like that, if not more, and just that environment, that stress. But the shift I did as well, which was a permanent 12/8 shift, which I made work, I knew that if I got up early, got the gym, got a little bit of downtime before work, I could do my shift and then shower, get my food, and go to bed on the night, essentially. So that used to set me up quite nicely. So that the point I'm making now is having that structure, having that, you know, pillar, if you like, of getting that training in before work. So it meant that even if I was dealing with different customers day to day, problems, this, that, and don't get me wrong, I had some good days, but those days where things maybe didn't go to plan, maybe I failed compliance on a call, maybe, you know, I got things wrong for a customer, things like that, stuff was coming back from maybe a couple of weeks ago and you'd messed up, made a mistake, you know, it was that thing of like, that already set me up for the day. So it meant that the things I couldn't control, you know, mistakes, accidents, things like that, whatever, that happened, you know, then at least I'd kind of got a win for the day and didn't let the rest of my day go to ruin. So movement changes your mind. So it's way more than just kind of getting out for a walk. Going back to what I said before, it's creating structure, but it clears your head, and it's a form of therapy. And you know, I probably will touch a little bit more on the therapy side as well. But the thing is, there's a lot you can do to help yourself before you go down, you know, the professional route of different things. You know, there's just getting out, going for a walk, even if, you know, it's bad weather outside, you can get little mini walking treadmills on Amazon for, I think, pretty much less than 100 quid or about 100 quid. Like, it's not much of an investment considering something like that. There's one that I've had that's lasted me like 4 years or something. Like, it's, you know, it's a worthy sort of investment. You know, getting a walk in will help with things like your anxiety, stress. You get a little bit of pace in that time, especially if you can get outside. That is going to be key. You know, the more you can do for yourself, you are going to get a lot more control over your mind, your body, your health, ultimately longevity, as, you know, we want to be around a long time. You know, we don't know what life has in store for us. So doing those things and looking after yourself is going to be extremely beneficial. Your body is always going to follow your mind and vice versa. So when you get stronger physically, you start realizing that, you know, you can handle life a bit better. You can handle your challenges a bit better, handle your problems a bit better. You can start to create the life that you want. So I'm in a sort of a, you know, I don't know, privileged, lucky position, whatever some people might call it. But the work that I've managed to do over, say, even the last 18 months to be able to go fully online for any like new business that I get. You know, I do still have a couple of PT clients that have been with me, you know, for a long time. So I still do that, but I'm able to have the freedom of being online pretty much all the time. You know, today it's a Wednesday morning and I'm able to be sat in the house filming this video. You know, like I'm not thinking about empowering, going to that call centre and doing that 12/8 shift. You know, I've earned the right to be able to do things like this and have the life that I want, and that is being down to fitness. You know, even if I was in a completely different field, it would be down to being stronger and being more capable and fitter to be able to apply those things that you get from the gym, from fitness, into your life. You know, it does go into everything else. If you feel good in yourself, you're going to have a better relationship with people, because you're going to have a lot less self-hate. You're going to have less self-doubt. You're not going to be dragging that into relationships with partners, things like that. Around your friends, you're not going to be dragging your friends down because you know, depressed or whatever it is. You know, you're going to be positive. You're not going to be a victim. You're going to be in charge of that, you know. And this leads me on to the fourth point. Can you believe we're up to the fourth? You know, training gives you purpose, and being able to have some goals in mind, saying, you know, I want to be able to lose, you know, 10 pounds, or I want to be able to do a photo shoot, or, you know, an ultra marathon, or whatever it is, whatever the goal is, that's getting you up on a morning. So at the moment for me, it's not just about fat loss. I'm thinking I've got a holiday in January going to Tenerife. So I need to be thinking immediately, like, I want to look good for that. I don't want to be fat at Christmas. You know, I want to be at a point where, I can maybe enjoy myself a few days over Christmas, but then I'm going to be in fantastic shape, ready to attack the new year. So that's kind of my purpose at the minute. I don't want to be going into January thinking, oh shit, I need to lose a stone, I need to lose whatever it is. I want to be feeling good when it comes to that. You know, you're building something day by day. You've got your stands, you've got something to work towards. You know, when I was at any time that, you know, I mean, I'm very transparent in the sense of, you know, I have fell off the wagon before, and there's been different reasons for that. Probably won't go into that today, as I don't want to make this a super long video, but the different reasons I've had, whether it's been, you know, through relationships, getting drained, things like that, or whether it has been, you know, the times where I have struggled with mental health and then had to drag myself back out of it, you know, or gone back into the past where I have been, you know, a binge eater. That has been a thing that has impacted me, taking comfort in food, you know, going past the corner shop and loading up with the dairy milk and the sweets and the, you know, the pasties, or just whatever else in the fridge and available and easy to chow down, you know. And once you think, you know, I want to get back into things, I want to get settled again, I want to get in shape, then that's giving you a purpose, that's giving you a reason to get up. You know, for me today, to make this video, I've got to be in a reasonable sort of condition. I can't come on this video, you know, 50 pound overweight like I have been in the past and start saying, oh yeah, go to the gym and train. You know, I have to look at least somewhat okay to be able to, you know, have something where, you know, someone might say, oh, this guy maybe knows what he's talking about. And a quick one, you know, I don't want to bang on too much about this word discipline, but training does teach you discipline. You know, for me, at the moment, I am in quite a heavy dieting phase. I'm doing 5 bouts of cardio a week, clearing over the 2 hour mark, nearly at 3 hours actually now. With cardio, as I've been bumping that up. And then 4 weight sessions a week. You know, food isn't critically low, but for the amount of the output is rather high at the moment. So for me, energy a little bit compromised, sleep is like a priority. There are some flat spots in the day. You know, I'm not full of energy all the time, as carbs, that kind of thing, are a little bit on the lower end. But I still want to be able to go, right, you know, I'm getting stuck into work. You know, I've got that discipline. So today, I've already hit my 10,000 steps. I've done my cardio, trained some legs, and then like making this video, and we're only up to just gone half one. So that's the discipline through the gym. And as I say, when I make this video, probably the next video, I'll be wearing this again, because I'll film this after this video that I'm doing just now. So you just keep showing up. You know, discipline you can't say it always just builds muscle or builds your fitness. It's building some character as well. It's building, you know, someone that can show up, that can work hard, that can get stuck in. And you learn a little bit delayed gratification. So this is my 6th point now. Wow. So you can't rush your results. So hypothetically, even if you're blasting all the gear and the peptides and the SARMs, whatever, taking handfuls of stuff, you're not going to get results fast. You know, you're not going to get it overnight, is what I mean. You know, you're not going to go from, 110 kilo where I've been before and get down to like, mid-80s, which is where, getting down to where I'm going to be in a couple of weeks' time. You know, you're not going to sort of go through that process and be there. You know, good things take time. Great things take consistency. You know, not one session isn't going to change your life. You know, you're going to get a little bit of happiness from doing that session. You know, you're going to get obviously the endorphins, things like that, but you're not going to go from, 50 pounds overweight to, beach ready in a session. You know, training changes your environment. So I'm very, very lucky that I'm able to train Ultraflex Durham. Incredible gym still to this day, despite going in a few different gyms up and down the country. I would say hands down the best gym I've been in. I'm very privileged to be able to train there, to have been given the opportunity to train clients there, have online clients in there. And the feedback is always incredible from everyone that I have in there. But the point is, being in that environment, being around some very serious, bodybuilders, people that, are just incredibly fit anyway, in terms of fitness and the work they do, getting in that circle. There's guys in there, there's sort of 50s and 60s, men and women that are in great shape, that are still working hard, and you see them and they're in there and they're training, and you think, wow, that's the motivation. That's what keeps you going. Being in that environment, putting yourself in that environment, that atmosphere around those people, training at the gym with those people, that is very, very important to your self-development, to your own growth as well. Be it, someone who maybe wants to be an aspiring athlete, or someone that just wants to lose weight, wants to just get fitter. Being around those people is going to be key for your own development, and being in those environments. The gym can certainly be, it sounds a little bit cliche maybe, but the gym can certainly become a family if you show up with the right attitude, with the right sort of energy about you, wanting to learn, wanting to pick things up. And that environment can lift you up on the days where you maybe can't necessarily lift yourself as well. Some days you might go in, certainly if I've got to go in at like 5:30 and I'm on and I'm a bit flat, the pre-workout hasn't kicked in, and then suddenly you kind of get a bit of a lift because you're around those people. And confidence comes from proof. This is one thing that, I forget exactly who said it to me, but it could have well been Daniel Dargan at a seminar that he did. And confidence comes from proof. So the more proof we get, so me as a coach, the more results that I get, the more content that I put out, the more value, the more advice, things like that I put out. So things like these videos, which I intend to help people. I intend it to be, obviously it's free, it's going to be on YouTube, it's this where sort of self-worth comes from, not sort of these affirmations, fake positivity, reading a bunch of self-help books. Yeah, books are great, things like that, but real confidence actually comes from doing the work, doing the thing. So for me, making the videos, filming content in the gym, training, doing my cardio, doing my steps, eating the right foods, bettering myself, moving forward, having massive chunks of self-development going on in different areas. That is what builds the confidence. That's where my proof comes from, and it'd be 1,000,000% the same for you as well. And something that I want to point out for all, I've done photo shoots, I've, obviously had pictures on Instagram of clients, and this and that, but it's not about vanity. That is one thing people still get a little bit wrong, especially people that are maybe just starting out in this. They maybe got a little bit of bitterness, they maybe, don't necessarily like to see people do so well. They get a little bit envious and they're thinking, oh, it's vanity, and people that are, you know, going out and doing these photo shoots, getting in great shape, maybe they're putting those people down, they may be talking negative, you know, putting things in comment sections, or even just thinking negatively about them. It's, for a lot of us, yeah, it's nice to look good. Some of us never see that. I know myself, you know, even when I've looked over pictures of myself that I did back in June, and, you know, even the like holidays I've been on, particularly the Greece in June, where I knew, looking back, that was probably the best condition I've had so far this year. It's the thing of like, I'm not 1,000,000% happy with that. I didn't appreciate it at the time. I felt I got a bit skinny. I felt I still wasn't as lean as I'd wanted to be as well, you know. But a lot of it's about survival. You know, people look at fitness and think it's all ego and aesthetics, and maybe that is the case for some folks, but for many of us, like myself, it's about, it is, as heavy as it might sound, it's about survival. It's about wanting to better yourself, to push forward, to improve, to just have good mental health, to have a good feeling about yourself, you know? It's how we get through the dark days. It's how we get through the anxiety, the stress, the depression. You know, if you don't, you know, I don't, as I say, I don't want it to be, you know, too cliche. And I mean, I put a lot of thought into this video, but, you know, you don't want that weight on your bar, on the bar in the gym. Maybe you don't want it to sit there. You don't want it to be sitting on your mind. You know, you'd rather get those feelings out, get that anxiety out, get that, you know, whatever it is going on out, and you'll be sweet. So the last point is, you know, the gym is very much going to cross over into your life. It's pressure, failure, discipline, patience, all those skills. You fall, you adapt, you'll come back stronger 100%, you know, and that's life. And training gives you just more reps to practice it. The very last thing I do want to say is accountability is key over being a victim. It's very easy to blame other people. It's very easy to have been a fat kid and say, oh, it's my mum's fault for feeding us so much, or nan's fault, whatever. You know, at some point you have to stop blaming everyone else, especially if you're like, you know, mid, late 20s, you know, or more. You've really got to just snap out of that whole victim thing of thinking, oh, you know, it's my genetics, or it's my family, or, you know, it's, oh, I don't live near a gym, or, you know, whatever rubbish you come up with. Oh, I don't have time. You know, if you're out of shape and struggling, you need to make the time. There will be time. We all work full time. Yes, I pick my own hours, but at the same time today, I'm going to be busy clipping my next videos that I filmed today together until probably like 8 o'clock tonight. You know, like, but I've got up early enough to be able to get everything done that I need to be able to then work late, to then be able to go to sleep early tonight and do it all again tomorrow. You know, you don't need sympathy, you need structure. You don't need someone to fix you. You know, as good as I am at my job, and I am good at my job, I can't do it for you. You know, I can't put everything right in your life to make you a success. You know, I can give you the tools, but it's up to you to use them. Accountability is what you need 100%. Sometimes that comes from a coach. That I've got guys that I speak to every day inside my coaching program that need that, and that is totally cool. But that's the accountability factor. But if you're on your own, maybe you need a bit of accountability, but you can't keep searching for happiness. You can maybe start building it. You know, the gym might not fix everything, but it is going to give you a start. You know, getting out, getting your steps in, things like that, and not being lazy on your lunch break, sat in your ass. That is going to help you getting up and about. You know, it's, at the end of the day, it's about showing up. You know, it's as simple as that. And, you know, yes, that's a cliche. Yes, that's probably the buzzwords and things like that, but that's my 2 cents on it anyway. But as I say, I will see you in the next video. I will keep it as real as I can. Any questions, comments, or slander, drop it in the comments, or come and fight me, whatever you want to do. But anyway, please don't fight me. But yeah, have a fantastic day. I hope that's been some help. God bless you. See you in the next one.